beers and they give me like all their merch and it's like, can you wear it? I was like, yeah, but then they turned up and I was like, oh, I don't like it.
Are you set? Anything you want to change?
You happy with your frames, Jack? So
Yeah,
you see
I
where
can't
it's...
see anything. I can only see me there. Is that what it'd be look like?
Yeah, so you see where you got the square around it?
Yeah.
That's how when you zoom in, it will look on Instagram.
What, just this one here, yeah?
Yeah, so you see there's like the white square.
Oh, now I can see it. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, all good.
And I can chop and cut and do whatever you need
No
to.
problem.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, yeah, you ready to jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome back, Jack. It's been a while. Obviously, we're in season 4 of the podcast now. Jack, you was on here, season 1, I believe.
Yeah.
Sharing a little bit about your story. So, how have you been?
Everything's been good, mate. As I was just saying, this is the second podcast that I've been done, and it's by you again. But a lot's changed since then in my own personal life, but also seeing how much you've changed and grown has been great to see as well. Because I know early on, then we had them conversations about where you wanted to go with the podcast and your life, and just seeing that's been great, mate. So well done to you as well.
Oh, thank you. So the first thing I wanted to do is for people that haven't sort of listened to your episode already, and I don't want to go too much into your story. I kind of want to talk about all the stuff you've been doing after.
Yeah.
Could you just give us sort of like a short overview of how you've ended up here today,
Right
I
now.
guess? Yeah.
Okay, we won't go the whole story, but just up until the age of 26, 27, just completely off purpose, had no direction in my life, didn't have a stable career. My life was just evolved around going out, partying, drinking, doing drugs, fighting, just being a complete nuisance, right? It wasn't up until the age of when I was 26, I then hit rock bottom essentially, which felt like rock bottom over and over again. But it got to a point where I was just sitting up weekends by myself, drinking, doing drugs. And I knew deep down that I could do a little bit more with my life. So stumbled across this book called The Miracle Morning. And this book was all about just waking up in the morning, transforming your life, meditating, reading, gratitude. And up until that point, I was like, I've never done this before and actually never read a book. My excuse was I can't read. But I put all that aside. I started doing this stuff that I essentially thought was just for hippies. But it weren't. I took a leaf out of this book. I started implementing it and I started to feel just 10 times better than I ever felt. And then from that moment on, I just kind of went on a spiral of progression, just really dived into my own personal development, started implementing what that book was saying, getting on to the next one, then got myself a new career by personal training, moved to personal training to go online. I was still actually drinking and doing drugs around this time, but it weren't every week. It was every 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And that still took a little bit of time to get to, it weren't a straightforward process. Even though I was training and I was helping people, I was still not where I wanted to be yet. But I knew I was making progression. Like I remember actually giving people personal development advice 4 a.m. and they're probably thinking, what are you going on about? But in my head, I knew I was progressing. But when it really changed for me, when I decided, right, that's it, I need to go sober, because I believed that I could do more with my life. And I kind of had an image of where I wanted to go. And I was just courageous enough to go for it. Ever since that moment, I've been sober over 3.5 years now, and everything's just gone on and on. I was personal training, then I was online coaching, now I do high performance coaching, and it's just elevated since essentially I made that decision to say, you know what, I need to go completely sober, because even every 6 weeks for me felt like I was back at the beginning. So that was a little bit of a rough.
Well, no,
rough
thank
thing
you.
there.
I appreciate that, because obviously the people that are listening and haven't listened, I'd definitely suggest going back and listening to Jack's first episode.
Definitely.
Because, again, you said about my growth, it's mad to see the growth in you as well.
Appreciate it.
It's lovely to see. But I guess I kind of wanted to touch on, you decided to go sober.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about in your content finding purpose and, being connected to that. Day one of sobriety and, taking it back to that stage, you are where you are now. How did you get there? And for someone who's just gone sober and they feel like, oh, I'm not connected to my purpose, I kind of want to get across the point that it takes time. And what would be some of the things that you would suggest to someone who wants to find purpose through their sobriety?
So when it comes to me, I believe some people can find purpose. I believe some people may stumble upon it. Some people may even believe that when they're born, they've got something they're all heading for. I never had that. So how I define purpose for me is really creating it. And that come from understanding first who I wanted to actually be, what goals did I want to achieve in my life, the life that I wanted to create, and then why did I want to change my life. And at the beginning, it was like, I didn't really have much of a purpose, but I knew who I wanted to be was someone that didn't go out every week. I knew that I wanted to be someone that wakes up in the morning and gets up on time. I knew that I wanted to achieve these small little goals. And I always say that to everyone. Like, now it might seem like I've got this massive purpose that I'm going for, but at the beginning, the purpose was just to be better. So if anyone's like unsure of what to do next, it's like really gain an understanding for like, who would you like to be in life? And at the moment, at the minute for me, it was at the start, it was just, I want to be someone that's fresh on the weekend. I want to be someone that gets up early. I want to be someone that's fit and healthy. At that time, it was like, I want to be someone that does Muay Thai. And then once I kind of gained that picture in my mind, it was like, what do I need to do to make that happen? The goal was to read a book. The goal was to do a Muay Thai exam. The goal was to stay in every single weekend. And once you start on them small little things and you start gaining momentum and you start feeling better about yourself, that's when I believe you can start widening how big that thing is. It makes sense, but it all starts like very small, and let that progression build as you continuously stick to that thing. Like, that's what created purpose for me, just understanding who I wanted to be, where I wanted to go, and the goals. And at the beginning, it was so small. And then as I stuck to that, I started to believe that I could actually make it possible. And then it was like, okay, now I want to be fit and healthy. What does that person do? Oh, he books marathons in. Okay, let's get a half marathon in. Then a longer run, then a marathon, then an ultra marathon.
Yeah.
So it's just like really starting small. And I believe it's creating it through understanding who you want to be, what goals does that person want to achieve, the lifestyle that you'd love to live, but then fundamentally, why do you want to do all these things? And if you start really small with that and then just keep working on it, the belief will build as you keep going. But I feel like because everyone deep down knows that they want to be someone better, I think, or they would love to do something more, but they don't write it out, they don't articulate it, they don't take action on it, so they don't believe in themselves to actually make this thing possible.
I was going to ask that question. I mean, like, is there any sort of things that you would suggest doing? So you said, for example, there, like maybe writing out your purpose,
Yeah.
or, you know, because you can have all these thoughts in your brain and maybe people get this big sense of overwhelm. I know I did anyway. At the start of my journey, I felt like, fuck, like I've got to do this now. I have to do this now. Is there any sort of like things that, or plans or something that you'd put together, or you'd tell someone, do this to find that, if that makes sense?
100%. And if anyone wants to find me on Instagram and they need like something to actually write this out of their head, I'll give them a free framework that I actually use. And it's just like breaking it down from year to 2 year to 3 years. And as I said, if you can't think that far, just writing it out what's in front of you. And I've got this perfect little thing. When everyone does it, they're like, this is unbelievable. It just makes so much sense when you do it. But it's like that deep down, we all know that we want to be something better or do more. But I think if you write it down, get a clear picture for it, and then actually start putting in the practical steps to make it happen, you gain so much clarity.
So many people as well, they kind of struggle with setting goals as well. And
Yeah.
I think it's especially in the early stages of sobriety. But what are some of like the key strategies that you'd recommend?
It's funny, if everyone wanted to send me messages, I could just send them over loads of free templates. But honestly, if anyone's even struggling with goals, I've got a template that I send out. Like, even for me, I used to use SMART goals. First I started writing them on my phone. I put them on a piece of paper and was just following them. And it was just like, achieve this, achieve this, achieve this. And I realized some of them I would do, some of them I wouldn't do, but it's because I didn't actually have any real system to achieve these goals. Once I actually started clarifying what I want and being very specific on that thing, example, I am going to run a marathon. That was like the goal. It was very specific. I put in detail and then actually putting practical steps in place to make that happen. Because a lot of people have got goals, which is a good thing, but one, they're either too vague. Example, I just want to be fit and healthy. It's very vague. So being very specific with that goal. But then most importantly, it needs to have a plan in place. So for example, if I'm going to run a marathon, I just broke one down myself. I'm going to run 100-mile next year. Then what I would do is actually break down the specific actions I need to take. Example, I need to get a running program. I need to get a nutrition program. I need to stretch. And then what I would do is I'd get them and put them on my planner or a calendar that I have and say, I'm running this day, that day, at the time that I need to be doing these things. And then if I show up, if I stick to the days that I've set, I'm eventually going to get to my goal. Same thing again, I've got a small framework. If anyone's unsure how to set their goals, just send it over to me, because there's so many different things when it comes to it. But once you put this in place, it's just going to be so easy to stick to if that goal is important to you.
Yeah. I guess that kind of comes back to connecting with your purpose as well, doesn't it?
100%.
And I think, you said it there. I've got a little calendar that I have every week on a Sunday. And like I said, I just write on it, run, gym, podcast edit,
Definitely.
make sure to do your content. And I think like seeing something visual is a real good tool, and it kind of helps people to understand what they need to do. And I get a real satisfaction out of ticking them
off.
Yeah.
And do you know what it does bring you? And that's what I noticed when I put all my goals in place, when I break down all of the actions that I need to take, and I wake up every day and I've got a plan in front of me with all the actions that I need to take, it gives me structure. And I love having structure, because I believe when there's no structure in place, you just wake up and you kind of floating around from here to there, doing nothing, procrastinating, being busy on your phone. Even with me now, where I don't drink, like I have specific goals in place for the weekend and a structure that I follow. I don't just go into the weekend just like, what shall I do this weekend? Because if I'm floating around, I'm going to start looking at doing the wrong kind of stuff. So if I've got solid goals in place, I've got a solid structure in place, time it gets to the weekend, I already know where my time, energy, and effort and attention is. Whether that is working on my goals, working on some project, spending it with my family, doing it with my community, or running, or whatever it may be, there's nothing just left to randomness. Because I believe once you're in that state of randomness, sometimes you can get bored. You see other people doing stuff and you feel like, that looks a bit fun what they're doing. The devil starts creeping back in. You want to end up going and do things you shouldn't do. You know what I mean? And I feel like once we create this purpose and have a nice structure in place, and most importantly, you know why you're showing up and doing all these things, you just feel more fulfilled. You feel like you're progressing and moving somewhere. You're growing. And without all of that stuff, mate, you're just floating and drifting around. That's when I believe them temptations can just fly in and push you off track, whatever it may be, even if it's not drink or drugs, but just bad habits. Or even now, sometimes when I haven't got a solid structure in place and I'm a bit free, it's like, would I go have another coffee? Do I have a bit more food? You know what I mean? Like there's so many things that your mind just starts drifting off on. I don't know if that's just me or not. But
no, I agree. I think as well, like if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because you have an addictive tendency.
Yeah, for sure.
So, there's like a whole thing around cross addictions, and you stop drinking and taking drugs, you've kind of become addicted to self-development.
100%.
But in a good way,
100%.
And I think, like you said, it's very easy to then get addicted to other things, whether that be sitting on your phone and sitting on Instagram scrolling, or like you said, coffee. Like you're drinking coffee for the sake of coffee because there's something to do. You want that little hit. You want that little bit of dopamine rush.
Mate, I agree. I completely agree.
You touched on it there. It's so true. Like if you look at someone's calendar and something's not in there, I don't really see how you can say that's got an importance in your life. And I think you said something that was really important as well, because in early sobriety, I did the whole like going into the weekend with no plan. And that was when my thoughts started to run. And all the people I've spoke to who've ended up drinking on the weekends and they felt bad about it is because they went there with no plan.
Well, but do you know what it is? If you sit there, this is what I used to do. I used to just say to myself, right, I'm not drinking no more. Right? I'd say, I'm not drinking no more. This was like at the start. I'm not drinking no more. I'd say that Monday to Friday to everyone. I'm not drinking this weekend. I'm not drinking. One, I believe if you put too much attention on something, you're going to do it anyway, because you're energizing the problem. So one, I would take my attention away from that and start focusing on the solution, right? But before that, I would say I'm not drinking all weekend. The weekend would come. I would sit there watching TV, which is not that exciting. I'd look on my phone. I'd see everyone else out partying and doing stuff. And then I'd just get them feelings of, why am I actually sitting indoors? You forget about last week and all the problems and troubles you had. Then you start making up some excuses like, you know what, last week was so bad. Why don't I just take it easy this week? Because it was horrible last week. You don't want to go like that, but you want to step out. You don't want to be unsociable. So go out and call it early, or only have one or two. But I was just never that person. So you just lie to yourself. You go out, you be back in that cycle. But then as soon as I stopped energizing the problem of focusing Monday to Friday, telling people I'm not drinking, telling myself, and just put something else to focus on. And by me focusing on that thing, I then started energizing that thing. And then when I was sitting there on the weekend, don't get me wrong, at the start, when you're just starting anything, you feel like, why am I even doing this thing? But if you can get through that little hard bit at the start, and then this thing starts materializing, you start getting excited on it. You get to the weekends and you're more excited about what you're working on than what everyone else is doing, partying and going out. But if you haven't got this other thing to focus on, like for me going sober, I needed to focus on something else. I didn't feel like I was going to be able to just go sober and just make that my life and just say, right, I'm not going to focus on anything else. I needed to, like what you say, get obsessed about something else. And the only thing I knew to get obsessed about was being a better version of me and building a life, achieving goals that essentially I would be proud of, that would challenge me, that would excite me. I wanted something so fulfilling that it outweighed whatever I thought I was getting from drink and drugs.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And also, like, there's an uncomfortable state of growth, isn't there? Before anything that feels uncomfortable, you have to go through that to then get to the other side and see the benefits. And I think for me, some of the things I've noticed is when I'm speaking to people now, you know, like you said, you've seen a change in me. Imagine the people that saw me when I was drinking and using like every day. Like they don't, it's unrecognizable. Like I went to a family party the other day and I see like one of my childhood friends' mum. She's like, oh, I've seen all your stuff on Instagram. Like, and it's that bit there that people want without the pain and the struggle first. And I think when you're, because I used to see people on day one, like, for example, you're a little bit further ahead of me. So I see your Instagram and see what you're doing. And when I first started, and I was like, why isn't it like that? Why can't I get like that? And for me, what I've learned is I have routines and habits which help me. So sort of gratitude in the morning has to be done, meditation and movement. And if I don't do those three things, they start to change.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, in regards to your routine, and they're probably going to be something quite similar.
Yeah.
But you know, what is your sort of rituals and routines and habits that you do, which kind of then interlink back into your purpose?
Definitely. One thing before I dive into that, like what you just said at the beginning is the hardest bit, 100 million%. And like, that's one of the reasons why I do what I do and what I've put together, is because everything that I didn't have and everything that I'm doing is because I want to serve my younger self, because that person didn't have a community, didn't have guidance, didn't have the right support in place. So for me, the journey that I went through, I don't recommend anyone else go through. And what I mean by that is, like, it was sitting indoors by myself a lot of the time, lonely, bored, not much to focus on at the beginning, but just having to just like know that this is boring, this is lonely, but on the back end of it, if I go out, that loneliness, that down, is going to be 10 times worse than me sitting here and just sucking this up. Does that make sense?
100%.
Like, and that, for me, it was hard because it went on for years. And when I went sober, like, I'm 3 years and 8 months sober, it weren't like what it is now. There weren't people like you inspiring and showing people that this is a cool thing to do. There weren't other people preaching it as that. When I was telling people I was going sober, it was a laughable thing. It was like, that's crazy. Or I only see celebrities that are sober, and I was like, I can't relate to that person. It's like Bradley Cooper. I was like, I used to type in people that are sober that I can aspire to be, and it was like just celebrities and stuff. I was like, they have not grown up in the same cultural environment. So everything that I went through, I don't recommend others go through, because there's so many other things in place now that will allow you to feel a part of something, whereas I don't feel like I had that. So definitely at the start, whoever's going through it, like, try and get support or be around the right people that are on that path. And there's loads out there right now, because that's going to be a key thing in holding you accountable. You probably won't have to sit there weekend on weekend, lonely, just working. There's like so many things in place now, and communities and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the thing, having that someone that you can call, someone you can reach out to. And if there's a group of you as well, like I find, you know, people in that group all feel the same, but they're waiting for the first person to say it, because it's a sign of weakness. They don't want to be like, I feel like this. I feel like I feel a bit stressed. I think I might drink this weekend, or I feel bored. Like, what should I do? But I think when you say that, you find that like everyone else in that group, there might be a group of 30, 40 of you, maybe like 50% of that group feel exactly the same. And then the other 50% that don't feel that way will feel that they have a responsibility to you, because it's community, isn't it? And it,
For sure.
and it makes people, like you said, it holds everyone accountable.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's definitely key. But like I said, I kind of want to know a bit more about your routines and disciplines, and also not just from a sobriety journey.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to be a high performer and live a high performance lifestyle, you know, are there specific habits that you have to do to stay aligned?
Definitely. The first thing for me is always, as soon as I wake up, one, I don't hit the snooze, and that sounds crazy, but to me, what changed my life is keeping my word. And to me, snoozing the alarm is breaking that first promise word of the day. So if I wake up, if the night before I say to myself, tomorrow I'm getting up at a certain time, I wake up and I snooze on that, already the day's on I've lied to myself. I said I was going to do something and I didn't do it. And that really, just keeping my word, is what changed my life. If I said I was going to stay in that weekend and I stayed in, I believed in myself more. I kept my promise. That enabled me to build discipline, consistency, routine, structure, better habits by saying I'm going to do something and just do it. So that was like always been, that's what I aim to do first. Straight after that, I'll go in my front room and I'll pray. And I've never really been a religious type, and I don't pray to a man in the sky or a certain God, but it's just I feel connected to something. And that only really come the last year and a half that I felt that. I don't know where it come from, but it just gravitated towards me. And now I deeply believe that there's something there guiding me, holding me accountable, or in something just to pray to, right? So when I'm doing the pray, I will pray for, and it's like praying and gratitude. I give gratitude for the things that I've overcome. So I kind of think about all the challenges and struggles that I've gone through, which makes me feel a sense of like proud in the morning. Then I start focusing on the things I'm grateful for, and like now I really get touched on them things, and then start praying and giving thanks for things that have not even happened yet that I want to happen. So I really dive in on the gratitude straight away. And any advice around gratitude is like, a lot of people struggle with this, and I always did.
Yeah.
But it's because I was always just writing it down with no emotion behind it. But for example, if you said to me, you give me a present, and I just said, thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
You'd probably think you're an ungrateful bastard. But
Yeah,
if I
yeah,
said
yeah.
like, thank you, Nick, I really appreciate that. You can feel sincerity, you can feel emotion behind it. And that's the key difference when I do gratitude. It used to just be like
Yeah, it's a task for the sake
a
of doing
task. I need to write down 5 things. So
Yeah.
now when I verbalize it and I actually think about 1, 2, 3 things I'm grateful for, I can feel it. Okay, I actually feel it. It means something to me. So that's like key. And then off the back of that, I will jump straight on and do my studying. And at the moment, I'm like studying for an NLP thing. And obviously, I want to be a great coach. So study for me is what changed my life, reading books. And so now at the moment, that's like studying's essential part of my day. And then after that, I'll have a coffee. I'll ask myself some empowering questions for the day. What am I excited about today? How do I want to feel today? And kind of like navigate my mind and focus for the intentions for the day. And then I will go and train. When I first started, it was like trying to do loads of different things, and it's
Yeah.
always gone through a different transformation period. My morning routine, it went from like waking up, cold shower, gratitude, reading, meditation. There were so many different things, which are all great, by the way, but they didn't need to go in
Yeah.
this order
Yeah.
because sometimes it's hard to uphold. So I just kind of built my own one around 3 key habits that really make me feel great. And then any other ones that I want to do that I used to do in the morning, I'll now do a little bit later on in the day. Like when I come back from it, before I used to go cold shower, go to the gym, come back, shower. Now it's like, what are you doing? Just go
Yeah.
to the gym, come back, and then have a cold shower.
Yeah, I guess I was going to say that, but you touched on it there. Like, you don't have to do all of these things all at the same time.
No.
And with the gratitude as well, one thing I've found is like, you'll find gratitude for something when you haven't got it. So get into that mindset of like, I haven't got this.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? So like, don't take anything for granted. Don't take your house for granted. Don't take the fact you've got shoes on your feet for granted, because tomorrow you might not have it. And there's been times when you haven't had it. So I think a lot of people find gratitude hard, but then it's like, well, think about all the stuff that you didn't have and you've worked towards, and if you would ask yourself, am I grateful, or would I be looking forward to having that? You'd be like, yes, I'm so buzzing to have that.
And also touch on that, when it comes to gratitude, when you actually practice gratitude over and over and over again, and you put emotion behind it and you keep doing it, you actually change how your brain's structured. Like, it's actually called neuroplasticity. So the more you practice a repetitive thought and emotion behind it, your actual brain structure changes. Like you training a muscle in the gym, right? And the more you do it, you keep doing it, you then tap into gratitude easier. And what I mean by that is when you give gratitude, or you just start noticing gratitude through your day-to-day life more easier. Same if you was on the flip side to practice anger all of the time. You can very easily get angry or pissed off by things, or you start looking for things in your life to be pissed off and angry about.
100%.
It makes sense?
Yeah,
I've been on both sides. So like at the start, it might seem like a chore or task, but if you keep doing it, just like you training a muscle in the gym, the way your mind or your brain is actually wired will change. So you can tap into gratitude a lot more easier. And my mean by that is like, you'll start seeing things when I walk past my daughter, I see her smile and I'm like, oh, that feels good. I don't have to think about it in the morning. I can just see it during the day.
Yeah.
Which in turn makes you feel a lot more happier.
You said a key word there. It's called practicing gratitude for a reason.
Sure.
Yeah, you don't you have to practice it. So people always say, like, what are these practices that you do? It's like, yeah, you're missing that key word. It's a practice. It's something that you get better at over time.
Yes.
Like you said, when you go to the gym for the first time, you walk around all these machines and you look a little bit, you know, scared. How do I use this? Or you go for a run the first time. I think running's a good example because
100%.
when you start running, everyone's like, I'm going to do a 5K today. And they start running and they get humbled really quickly. Gratitude has a way of humbling you. And all of these things have a way of humbling you. And they'll do it, you know, and you think like, what the fuck? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?
I'll tell you why, because everyone kind of looks for instant gratification.
100%.
Gratitude, meditation, running for the first time, all of these things, they don't give you instant gratification. Like, I mean, if you've not done it before, you might not feel the feelings that you want straight away. So it can seem like a bit of a waste of time. Plus, if you've never done it before, you're going to have your ego or some sort of resistance saying, what are you doing all this for? This is ridiculous. And I had that when I started meditating, giving affirmations, practicing gratitude. The side of me, the ego, was like, this is a waste of time. Like, you look like an idiot. What are you saying thank you for? What are you doing this for? Like, and then obviously you just have to keep pushing and staying consistent with it.
I was going to ask you, because I saw in your podcast, you mentioned that, you know, everyone knew you as Jack, who is just a handful. Yeah. And you've gone from like, you know, being a handful to then posting on Instagram and like outside noise and stuff. And like, I think you said on your podcast, someone actually rung you up or rung up one of your mates. Like, is Jack all right? Like, how does that feel? Because you're stepping into a new version of yourself. Like, and not everybody, so to link it back to sobriety, not everybody believes you at that stage. And also not everybody's comfortable with that new version of you yet. They haven't seen that new version. So how did you deal with that sort of outside noise?
Do you know what? So yeah, like what you're saying, I remember one of my friends rang me. He's like, everyone's ringing me saying, are you okay? Because I think I might have posted, like, I've been posting on Instagram at that point. Then I started posting the things like gratitude, write down things for your gratitude, or write down this post, that post. And it was just so out of the ordinary. Do you know what I mean? From people that knew me. So I don't know. I think you feel embarrassed, not you feel embarrassed, but you feel like, oh, that's going to make you feel a certain type of way. You know what I mean? Then there's obviously going to be resistance, like, oh, maybe you shouldn't post that, because my ego was massive. Like, I thought I was, excuse the pun, Jack the lad. Like, I was like, felt like I was a bit of a boy. Do you know what I mean? So when you hear all of that kind of stuff, you obviously get resistant and think, I shouldn't be doing that. But I don't know. I just felt like deep down these things were making me feel good, and I felt like me trying to help others would make them feel good. And then when I started building that picture in my mind of like where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do and all that kind of stuff, I just let that hold me accountable. I feel like if you've got a strong why behind anything, this is what I say to people. If you've got a strong why behind everything, let that why be so strong. Let that outweigh the fear of other people. And what I mean by that is, like, some people hold themselves back from posting on Instagram, right? And I've done it before. But then when I thought, why am I posting this? Well, I want to give inspiration to someone else. Okay, is that inspiration or someone message you saying, thank you for doing that, going to mean more to you than if someone was to laugh at you for posting that? Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Like, because that's what you want. Like, there's a strong reason why. And it doesn't matter what you do, positive, negative, you're always going to be judged. And so 9 times out of 10, you're making up the judgments in your head, thinking people are going to judge you. There will be people judging you, but regardless, they're going to anyway. I'll probably get judged for a lot of stuff now. People probably send my stuff around and think, like, what a wally. Not that I know of, but you're always going to get judged. It just doesn't matter what you do. So you might as well do it anyway.
It's a reflection of them anyway. And like
100%.
You can't control the uncontrollables. And I know that sounds really obvious, but like when you think about it as well, like, oh, what are people going to think because I'm not drinking tonight? Don't know. They'll be too drunk to even give a shit. 2, does it really matter? And 3, what do you want to get out of it?
3, they probably would want to do it themselves. That's why they're judging you.
Yeah,
that's the honest truth. It's like always an honest reflection, like what you're saying. A lot of people will judge you for doing certain things because deep down they're not chasing their own dreams, goals, and aspirations. I've realised that when I used to talk bad about people or hate on someone, it's purely because I was probably jealous, or it was because they were doing something that I wanted to do. And that's the honest truth. Like, there is nothing that comes outside of that. If you're hating on someone, you're judging someone, you're doing any of that, it's because there's something in them that you see, or they're doing something that you would love to do, but you just wouldn't take the action. I'm very honest and open about all this stuff because I've been the complete opposite to what I am. So I know every reason why people do things. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
and what
100%.
I mean by that is, like, I was that person, come out and drink tonight, you pussy. Like, why are you not drinking? It's like, because he wants to stay in tonight, but I know that I can't stay in. So I want to make sure that he comes out with me.
Don't feel so bad about
so
yourself.
I don't feel bad about myself.
Yeah,
and I can admit that because I know I was that person.
I didn't realize that until I stopped drinking and taking drugs, and then everyone else in my friendship group, like I blamed for being a problem, wasn't the problem.
No,
and they started going out and like going home at like 10. They'd be like, well, when you're out, like we just crack on for like days on end.
Yeah, no, the same thing for me. Yeah, some people call it that, but they know when they're with me, they're wrapped in for 3 days. So like, I was the problem. Do you know what I mean?
You're not leaving. Like, I don't
no,
care.
you're not leaving. Where you got? But that's what I'm saying. So I've been the flip side of what I am now. So I know everything, all the mindset that comes with being that person, whether that's being jealous or hating on someone or dragging someone down. Like I can openly, honestly admit that I was that person.
Yeah.
Like without me realizing it or not. So I know the flip side of it too, why people do exactly what they do.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether they are hating on someone, dragging someone down, being jealous. Like I've been all of these things and I know why you do them.
Yeah. I was going to ask as well, like it's a bit of I don't know how you feel about the word motivation, and obviously like, you know, interlinked with motivation and discipline, and they're kind of two different things. But everybody on every journey goes through a point where they don't feel motivated. And they might feel like that. I mean, I felt like that personally on my sobriety journey at occasions. Why am I really doing this? You know, what sort of advice would you give to someone who to sort of get through those challenges and kind of just learn a bit of like resilience, and how can they push through? Because that's what we've been speaking about, is like when you push through, you always get to the other side and you feel better. But when you are feeling demotivated, and I know you had a bit of a tough start to the year, injury and other things. So how did you get yourself through those challenges?
The only thing, and it is like if you've got purpose in your life, and why I say what I keep saying about purpose is about understanding who you like. Purpose to me was never about a passion. It was never about I want to be an astronaut, like a purpose. Like, I never had that. So I just had to create it from understanding who I wanted to be, the goals I wanted to achieve, what lifestyle I'd like to live, and then like why am I doing all of this? And any time that I've felt unmotivated, in like off track, wanting to give up, the only thing that has guided me through that is purpose. Knowing them things, but also why am I even getting up today? I get up a lot of days and there's not the bright, purposeful feeling. There's not motivation to get up today, but I know I need to do it. It's a necessity that I have to show up because I want to achieve big things in my life. And anything less than that, any less than me showing up is not going to get there. And that's why I do believe it's great for individuals to aim so high in their life. Well, especially me, I knew I needed that. I knew at the beginning if I was going to stop doing drink and drugs, I needed something in place of that one day I could achieve that would make me feel like this was all worth it. And if anyone can really dive deep on them points that I said, but understand their why and why they've got to show up, like that will hold you accountable. At the beginning, the why for me, honestly, was just like I was sick and tired of being who I was. Like I fucking hated myself. I was going to bed crying. I was miserable. I was letting people down. I was letting myself down. And I hated feeling like a letdown, a loser, an embarrassment all of the time. So like when I didn't feel motivated to get up in the morning, when I didn't feel like I wanted to stay in that weekend, I would take my mind to how I felt after I'd been out and me laying there by myself, you know, fucking feeling depressed, not wanting to be here no more, all of that. And like, do you want to feel like that again? No. Get to work.
Yeah, yeah.
And it changes as you go on and you evolve. But the reason I show up all of the time is because I have got such a big purpose in my life. I could never go back. And it always defines, it always changes, and always things that you can put under that tool belt. There's always a different why for different areas of your life. There's different purpose for areas of your life. Recently just had a daughter. That wasn't my purpose before, but now she's come along. It adds more purpose. For me, what holds me accountable is my community and the people I want to inspire, which helps me show up every day. But at the beginning, I didn't have all of that. So the purpose is like, if you're not feeling motivated, you don't want to be disciplined, you just need to find a strong why and get things to focus on.
Yeah, 100%. I think I agree. I mean, another thing you touched on there, I was actually going to ask you the question of like, you know, becoming a parent is a huge life change. And how has that sort of affected your approach to what you do now? Because, you know, we spoke about it a little bit off air about sort of what defines success.
Yeah.
And has your idea of what success looks like changed since you've had your daughter? And you know, how has it affected your life? And I'm assuming it's in a positive way.
There's a lot of ups and downs with it, if I'm honest with you. And I'll be honest with you, because I am so obsessive by nature, and I had so many people tell me before my daughter comes that you need to say goodbye to your routine, you need to say goodbye to your normal life, and all of this kind of stuff. I made a point at the beginning that my life would not change. And what I mean by that is, like, I was up all night with the baby, crying and whatever else, and I'd still get up at 4:30, study, and go to the gym for 6.
Yeah,
because I know them things made me sane and feel good. But I was probably too obsessed with that to the point of where my girlfriend done a lot of the work and then sort of like needed me to take a little step back to help her do more. Without my girlfriend, I'll be honest with you, it'd have been 100 times harder than what it is. But I wanted to ensure that I stay in line with the best of me. And what I mean by that is that if I stay in line with the best of me and do the things that I know make me feel great, I can then be great for my family. Because a lot of people go into this new challenge, this new experience in life, they stop going to the gym, they start putting loads of weight, they start feeling, you know, down and all these kind of things, when I didn't want to go down that route. So I kept everything in place, which was hard.
Yeah,
it paid off in the end, but I'm not going to lie, mate, without my girlfriend, it would have been 100 times harder than it was. But in terms of having a daughter, it's been great, it's been amazing, but also a whole new challenge that it's just a whole new, it's just a crazy experience. Like, it's just a crazy experience. Like, there's all of the things that you know about losing sleep and all that kind of stuff, but just like, I don't know, feeling weird that you're a dad and adopting to this whole new lifestyle of having a kid is something that's crazy. But in terms of the purpose side of it, it definitely gives you another reason to want to show up and be your best self. And I'll be honest with you, that adds on to not wanting to be who I was in the past, because I know who I was in the past was someone that could not stop. And I just know I would never want to put myself in a position where I've come home and I wouldn't be able to stop myself from drinking and doing drugs, knowing I've got a daughter in that house, or potentially could see me in that state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's like another, like, we're not going back.
Yeah. No, I think it's inspiring as well, because I think it does show people that your life, you know, doesn't have to change drastically, and also it's another driving force for what you want to achieve. And I think, you know, the reason I asked the question is out of being selfish, to be honest. You know,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about starting a family.
Love
and
that.
I've always worried about that. I'll be honest, you know, I've always worried that is it going to affect some goals that I've got in my life, some things that I want to achieve. But I think I know deep down that it will actually make me feel more connected.
I think there's two ways to look at it. Right. Number one, it is going to depend who your partner is. And that's the honest truth. Like, my partner is excellent, like an excellent mum. But she knows me. And what I mean by that is she knows how much I need to work on myself to feel great. And she wants me she wants me to do that, because she'd rather be who I am now than who I was.
Yeah, of course.
So yes, you might have to part with me doing whatever it may be. Like, if I've been up all night, I want to study at 4:30, the baby's crying, you may have to do that rather than me doing it, because I want to get on my goals. But she'd rather that side of it than, like, oh, Jack's going out a weekend and bowling in at whatever time and laying on the settee all weekend, not being present with the family or causing problems. So, like, we've got and by the way, we had a lot of ups and downs with that, and we solved that, we discussed that, and we managed to get over them hurdles, which made us even stronger. But you don't have to let go of everything, but your partner is important in that. I can't. That is an important part of that. If your partner supports you, and you're keeping your word, essentially, like, why I can be the way that I am and my partner supports that is because I keep my word with everything. And what I mean by that is, I might be like this and I won't work this much and do all these things, but Sunday is a non-negotiable. I don't work, I don't train, and we go do present stuff together as a family. We spend the whole day with each other.
Yeah.
Saturday afternoons, maybe the same thing. I make time during the day and of an evening to spend time with my daughter. Sometimes I can't because I'm working. But when I am doing these things, I'm present, I'm there. I'm not laying on the sofa hungover. I'm not looking on my phone, like we're doing good stuff together. So it makes a difference, you know what I mean? But going back to the question is like, you don't have to let go of it. You can make the excuse to let go of everything. That's the honest truth. Like, there's been a couple of days this week where I've had to wake up at 3 o'clock because my daughter's crying. I couldn't sleep. I went and laid in the front room. I couldn't. Now I could have made the excuse, oh, let's not study or let's not go to the gym. I've been up all night. My daughter's crying. I get on with it. I was up this morning. I had my daughter on my lap at 4:30 watching my study video with me.
Yeah, you adapt.
You have to adapt. And like, not every day's perfect. You know what I mean? There's some days where I've had to put things aside and not do that, which has been hard because I'm so obsessed with what I do. But my girlfriend really needs me. So you also need to have a fine line of, you can do this stuff, but if you've got someone that needs you, you need to rein it in a little bit, which I didn't really do at the start. And that's my downfall, but I learned from that.
I was going to ask, actually, out of interest, Jack that I spoke to must have been almost 2 years ago now, or a year and a half ago. You know, his definition of success and your current definition of success, how have they changed as you've grown as a person?
You know what's funny? So I never really thought about success as a whole, but when I changed my, no, it's not that I changed my perspective on it, but I put more attention on it earlier in this year. And what I mean by that, I was getting mentored by someone. I paid for like a coach essentially to help me build my business up and stuff like that. And their whole idea around it was like, you know, niche down on this, focus on this, and you earn more money. And I kind of took the advice and I started like creating my content around certain individuals. I started to change all my wording around things and I only focused on certain people because I wanted to earn more money. And then like I took all of their advice because obviously you've paid them. They're like, no, go this way, trust me. And then I felt burnt out for like a good month and longer. And I didn't want to do anything. And I realized I was off purpose. I was moving towards the wrong thing. I was always so certain about where I was going and trusted myself to go there. But then I got outside advice, which was probably the wrong advice. Not the wrong advice to anyone, to me, because I knew where I was going. I just took that advice. I went off and I started focusing on the wrong thing. And where I was focusing on that thing, I went off purpose. And when I got myself back on purpose and I started feeling great every day again, not every day, but I started feeling a lot better in myself, feeling connected to my purpose, that was like, that is success for me. If I'm waking up every single day and I'm moving closer to where I want to go in life, I feel like I know who I want to be, I know what goals I want to achieve, I know what I'm creating, I know the impact I want to make, and I'm waking up every day on purpose, I feel successful. It doesn't, if you do what you want to do, if you go where you want to go, all of the thing that other people define as success, money and things like that, they will come in time when you work and focus on the right things. But just by me solely focusing on what would be deemed as success, money, it completely burnt me out and I felt like I don't want to do what I was doing no more. So success for me is just waking up every single day knowing that you're aligned with your purpose, because it is more about and it sounds so common, the process of getting wherever you want to go than the actual final stop, because that thing is always going to move on. There's never going to be a point where you stop.
You're going to find that you want to know what's next. You know, like you get to something, you hit that goal and it's addictive. Like it is, because you achieve that goal and the next thing you realize, like, right, what can I set now? Because I didn't even think that was achievable.
100%.
And then you achieve it and then you think, right, they've got to target this target. I mean, we spoke, I said 2 years ago, I said, I'm going to be out of construction. I'm going to be down part-time. We're now sitting here. I've done it. And then it's like, oh, fuck. I need to make this full-time. Like, I need to push. I need to do something else. And I think it's, it's interesting to see your perspective, because I saw, you know, I follow your journey. You know, like I said, every time I see a story or something pop up, I always watch it. You know, everyone else flip through. I think, I see what Jack's saying. Like, it'd be good to see how he's getting on. And I seen you go through that dip, you know, at the start of the year. And it's funny to hear you say that, because that's kind of, from an outsider's point of view, you can almost see it. You know, like I can see you were burnout. I can see, but it's interesting that you said it was kind of linked to listening to someone else. And obviously there is benefit in listening to other people, but I think deep down everybody knows what they need.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, it's not that listen, I'm a coach, right? I give loads of people advice. I help people with individuals certain things. It's just I've probably gotten wrong with the ball, did the wrong thing and took the wrong advice and took it too far one way. And also by that time I was doing other stuff. I was injured. Like there was so many factors involved with that I end up just burning out. And then when I come at the end of it, I needed to go through it though. That was the most important point, was like, I'm so glad all of that bad happened, because I learned so much lessons and grew from it. So at the time it felt like the worst thing, but as usual, when you come at the back end of it, you're like, oh, I needed to go through that, because now I've just learned loads about myself, learns about life, loads about what I'm connected to, which was a positive in the end. You know what I mean? But going back to what you just said there about moving towards something that I always teach and I preach, becoming the best you, right? I know deep down I'm never going to be the person that I want to be. But that sounds so depressing, but it's also the best thing in the world. Knowing that there's always another version of you that you're trying to seek is what I believe will make you feel fulfilled, happy, like you're moving somewhere all of the time. Like I might be 90 years old and I know by the age of 91 I want to do a little bit more. But what I say about that is like, don't let that be a depressing thing. Enjoy the process. Not like I have to be there to feel. I don't put my happiness, my fulfillment on an achievement. I don't put it on a have to be there, then I'll feel X, because it will only, when you get there, I need the next thing to feel good. Oh, do you know what it was? I've done that, but it's because I didn't do that. That's why I don't feel good. And then you forever chase it. I believe you should always chase things, always work towards things, but feel happy, feel fulfilled, feel great in yourself and all the work that you're doing along the way to the things that you want to achieve in life. Because you're always going to want more. And there's nothing wrong with that. We should grow. But don't link your confidence, don't link your happiness to when I'm there, I'm going to feel a certain way.
Yeah. Do you reflect at all? Do you have periods of reflection to, is there like a set time that you think is a good opportunity to reflect? How often are you reflecting on what you've achieved?
Right. So I'm not going to lie to you. I won't want to get my phone out, but I journal. I never used to reflect. I never used to reflect. Why I'm saying what I'm saying is because I was the person that thought, well, you need to get to this. When you earn that, then you're going to be happy. Or when you earn this, when you achieve that, you're going to be better. I always done that. And I always felt like I'd get there, I'd be dissatisfied and I'd go again. Or I couldn't celebrate it. Why are you going to celebrate this for? It wasn't that good. If you celebrate, that means you're going to enjoy it. That means you're not going to want more. It was just a stupid mindset. I'll be honest with you. What I do now is reflect consistently. And what I mean by that is I'll do it during the day. I write down the wins that I've got in the morning. I write wins, what I've got during the day. But when I get to the end of every evening, I just ask myself, what 3 wins that you got today? What is a lesson that you learned today? How can you improve tomorrow? I'll do that on a daily basis. And then when I get to the end of the week, I'll look over the whole week and same thing. What wins did I get? What lessons did I learn? How do I feel like I can improve? And then also I'll take a moment out after I've done something or achieved something to like, sit on it for a minute, have a think about it, think about how far I've come. Even the morning reflection of like, when I said I give thanks for my past, that's like a self-reflection to already say in the morning, like, I'm grateful that I'm sober and I'm grateful for all the challenges and struggles that I've overcome and achieved. That's a self-reflection practice because it can be easy just to forget how far you've come. And I was that person. Nothing was ever good enough. I never thought everything that where I was at was like, I would have dreamed to be in this place. Yeah. And I get there and you're like dissatisfied. So me, it's like mine's like a 3 times a day reflection now, but most importantly, end of the evening, every week after something big's got achieved. And also like the end of the year, I do like a whole yearly reflection of like all of my wins and all the stuff that I'm grateful for along that journey.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate, massively. I spoke to someone on this podcast and she told me what she does in her gratitude list and I now do it as well. So I write down sort of as much as I can for the things I'm grateful for, and then things that I'm grateful I no longer have to do now I'm not drinking and using. And that makes I look back at those things and it's like, you write it down and you look at it and you think, that's mad. How can you be grateful for not doing that? It's like, I'm grateful for not letting people down. Yeah. I'm grateful for not spending money on drugs and alcohol. I'm grateful for not wasting another weekend. I'm grateful for the fact that I haven't lied to my missus about when I'm coming home. I'm grateful for the fact that I had an opportunity to speak to my sister this week because I wasn't off my nut. Yeah. Like those things. And then, like you said, that's a self-reflection tool. And it helps me massively because then when I look back at those things and I compare to the person I am now, and that's first thing in the morning, and it's like you said, also things about like things that you're grateful for. Like, for example, I say, I want to get out of my job. I've got a job. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole, everything comes down to the way that you look at it and the perspective you put on it. But like at the beginning for me, when I wanted, the thing that helped me this last year was like, when I first changed my life, I had to be so hard on myself because 90% of my actions were no good, 10% were okay. So I was focused on the 90%. You need to improve. So no matter what I'd done, it was no good. But then what I realized is when I actually was in a much better spot, I was still battering and judging myself on the 90%, the 10% now.
Yeah, the other way around.
The other way around. I was like, 90% you're doing good, That doesn't matter. 10% you're still doing bad. So what I had to change was like all of these little wins that I picked up during the day. You got up on time, you meditated, you cold showered, you went to the training, you done this, you helped that person, you done all that thing. I started to praise and pat myself on the back for that. What I mean by that is like by the end of the day, I started writing down the wins as I go. By the time it was 11 o'clock, I wrote down wins, trained, got up on time, done this. And the same thing about what I said about changing your brain. I started to focus in on all my wins. And what I mean by that is like, when I started seeing messages from clients, usually it would be like, Jack, you've changed my life. I'd be like, yeah. But then I started focusing on them, focusing on the wins. When I see it, I'd like, oh shit, that's crazy. I've been able to do that. Like I would reflect a little bit more. I would feel fulfilled. I'd get a feeling from it because I was focusing on all of the good that I was doing, not the 5 to 10% that I wasn't doing no more. And I don't know if I would have took it back from not doing that from the beginning. I think at the beginning, you probably don't have to be as strict as I was on yourself. But I do feel like if you're not in a great space, yes, you can be kind of kind to yourself in a way, but you do need some form of strictness because otherwise I don't feel like you would change.
Yeah, I think,
but then I don't know if that was just me at that time and that worked for me.
But I think to be honest with you, if you're anything like me and you, and you know, and you're like, again, if you're listening to this podcast, it's because there's something that's gone wrong in your life at some point, or you're already on the journey. Yeah. So you might be also on the journey, and you could be 10 years down the line, but you're a little bit lost.
Yeah.
And I think like discipline of some description, no matter what that is, and it doesn't have to be the gym, it doesn't have to be getting up early, but it has to be holding yourself accountable and doing those things that will bring you back to where you need to go. And it also then makes you reflect. And it's just it's a big circle of like, you will fall off. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
There's going to come times when you fall off, but that's okay as long as you can find a way to realign yourself.
Well, I say everyone that starts with me, I said, listen, when we're working together, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for progression because my journey wasn't perfect. Like I was trying to make a habit of getting up at 5:30 every single day for 60 days on the straight. I could never do it. I could never do it. I could never do 60 days straight. I would always fall at some point, but I would keep going. I'd keep going. And eventually it got to a point where I did do it. Like at the start, I tried making everything a bit of a challenge, like a kind of 72 hard or pick these 10 habits, crash them out. And like, it's just so not sustainable. So like even anyone like what we're saying about, don't try and do too much at once. Like pick 1 or 2 habits that you want to stay consistent with, prove to yourself you can do them, make them a reoccurring habit, subconscious essentially, then move on to the next one. And know that if you're trying to say to yourself you want to get up at 6 o'clock every day, if you don't for one day, you've not failed. Come back the next day and make sure that you do. Because sometimes what happens, people try too many things at once. They do it for a couple of days. It feels great. They fall off. They can't get back to all these things that they was doing. They look at themselves as a failure. And then they think, I'm just not even going to bother doing this. So you're better off like picking a couple of little things, make them non-negotiables, be consistent with them. But even still, you're not going to be perfect. Like just make progression on them. And it's more the consistency over time that changed my life rather than intensity of loads of things together straight away. That didn't change my life. It was a constant start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. Even with the drink, stay in 1 week, get to the second week, foul. Stay in 1 week, get to the second week, didn't work. Go again. Oh, I got to 3 weeks. Go back. Now 1 week. Now 2 weeks. Now 3 weeks. Now 4. Now back to 1. Now 1 again. Now 1 again. Now 1 again. Now 6 weeks. Back to 0. Now 1 again. It was like a constant like back and forth. But the only thing that I didn't do was quit.
Yeah, but you take learnings from those.
Every single one.
So each time, you don't realise it at the time, but you're taking a lesson, you're taking a bit of learning, and from that learning, you're applying that to the next attempt.
Yes.
And, you know, eventually
100%.
it just all circles round.
Yes. Well, if you are taking the lessons.
Yeah,
like
that's
if you
true.
are taking the lessons.
If you're
sometimes
not.
I weren't, because sometimes I was like, no, this week I'm definitely not going to do this. But like didn't recognise what went wrong the week before. It's only when I started learning the lessons and recognising the week before what I was doing wrong and then come back with a new approach that didn't work. This week I'm going to set an alarm on my phone that reminds me at 2 o'clock to go home. Right, that didn't work. Okay, next week I'm going to set a reminder at 7 o'clock, say, only drink 2. Oh, that didn't work. Like, I tried so many things that sound crazy when I think about them now, but they was all me trying to get where I wanted to go. And me just consistently doing that, being persistent, coming back. I eventually got where I wanted to go. But I think everyone looks at other people and is like, oh, that person's sober, in shape, doing this, doing that, doing that. I want to just do that.
Yeah.
You don't just do that. You don't build the I don't know, £10 million business without earning the first £100.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
It's the same thing with anything. You know what I mean? You can't get there without doing all of the stuff to get you there, that is what people don't want to do.
No, 100%. I think as well, like you touched on it there, if you speak to people who've got a sober, especially, a lot of the times the seed was planted 3-4 years before they did it. So subconsciously they're doing all that stuff, you know what I mean? And nobody sees that because nobody's on Instagram when they're fucking off their nut saying, I'm going to get sober.
Well, I remember, I think I went sober at 27 and a half, maybe 28, something like that, 28 maybe. I was cutting down from the age of 26. I probably knew I should have stopped drinking at maybe 24. Or I'd wake up every week like, fucking hell, this has got to stop. You know what I mean? But never stopped. So like for a long time I knew I stopped. Tried going sober for a very long time. Even when I say 28, like I was probably 2 years in the making of actually trying to go sober.
Yeah, exactly.
Or telling people that I was going sober, messaging, I'm done with this now. 4 weeks later.
Yeah, same
doing the same shit.
Yeah.
But I was moving there.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to wrap it up, Jack. So thank you for coming on again. And it's been nice, man, to see the progression.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
same thing for you, bro.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see. So I wanted to finish with one question, and I guess it's linked to sobriety, but also living a high performance lifestyle. Mm-hmm. What would be your sort of 3 key traits that you think people who want to live that high performance lifestyle and stay sober need? And also, what would be the one piece of advice that you'd give to someone who wants to achieve a high performance life?
I think the first trait is courage. And courage to me means taking action regardless. You're scared, you're fearful, other people are saying stuff, you don't believe in yourself, just take action. And that's what, like, even me, there's a lot that I didn't believe in myself to do, but I just done it anyway. And I think if you be courageous from the beginning and you prove it to yourself a couple of times, you will start to believe in yourself. So courage is number 1. Second one is persistence. And what I mean by that, like what we was talking about, I tried going sober numerous times. The only thing, and even like the early on in the year when I was going for a bad thing, the only reason I got where I am is because I persisted. I just didn't stop. Like in my mind, and something I say to myself is like, you will not lose if you don't quit. That's something I remind myself consistently of, because I know if you've got an idea in your mind and you essentially be courageous enough to go for it, one day you are going to get there. So definitely courage, persistence, investing in yourself. And a lot of people don't want to invest in themselves and the time, most probably likely because they don't believe in themselves. And investing in yourself doesn't have to mean a lot of money. It doesn't have to be a coach. Investing in a book, investing in a course, I've invested in therapists. At the moment, I've got a public speaking coach. I've got a therapist I speak to. I've got a training and nutrition coach. I'm going into the new year looking for essentially like a high performance coach to help me. Like just in investing, no matter how big or small, because there's going to be someone with a stack of knowledge that can help you get somewhere. Apologies for that. It's some words that remind me of who I want to be. They're actually the words we're talking about. But there's going to be someone with so much knowledge out there that's going to help you get where you want to go quicker than you can ever do that. So just like be courageous, be persistent, and invest in yourself. And it's funny them words gone off. What they are, that's an alarm that I put on my phone, and them words that would have popped up would have been exactly what we're saying. Yeah. They would have been courage, persistence, because I set alarms to go off during the day to consistently remind myself of who I want to be. And that's another thing that keeps me on purpose. And what was the last thing? What is the one piece of advice you'd give to someone who wants to either get sober or live that high performance lifestyle? But I think you might have already... Just same thing. I was about to say, fucking. Just go for it. Just go for it. Be courageous. Just fucking go for it. Like, you don't have to believe in yourself. Like, I don't believe in myself to do a lot of things, but I'm courageous enough just to go for it anyway. I didn't believe in myself to go sober, but I was courageous enough to go for it. Like, it's just a case of taking action. If you be courageous, and the hardest bit about being courageous is in the beginning, you won't believe in yourself because you've never took action before. And like the first time I stepped out my comfort zone, I'd done a Muay Thai exam. When I'd done my first half marathon, I did not believe in myself, but I was courageous enough just to go for it anyway. And after them first couple of courageous defining moments, I then gained self-belief because I was stuck to my word. I went through this thing that I was scared of, and I grew. I think people feel like they're they have to believe in themselves, or their fears in the way. I can't do this. I get fearful. I get scared. I don't believe in myself, but I'm just courageous enough to take action anyway. But to take action and be courageous, I believe you need to know who you want to be first and what you want to achieve and where you want to go. Because you're not going to be courageous if you don't know them things. I knew that I wanted to run a half marathon. I knew I wanted to be fit, healthy, be a runner. So what would that person do? He would book in the race and he would just fucking go for it anyway. Like, if you're someone that wants to build a business, knowing that you want to build a business, even if you don't believe in yourself to make it happen, but that's what you want to be a businessman that creates his own life, be courageous enough to go for it. And once you start achieving all the little small building blocks, you gain momentum and you start believing in yourself.
Yeah, love it, man. Thank you so
I
much.
got into it.
no, it's good. It's been so good to chat. And thank you
bro.
for all your time.
Thank you for having me.
No
Loved
worries.
it. Good work.
Sorted.
You like that?
Yeah, it's sick,
perfect.
man.
Let me quickly go away.
Yeah.